expressing their love by not celebrating Mawlid. These are two lovers, two sets of lovers. In their unique ways. God did not make us all the same. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعْلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا آتَاكُمْ. If God wanted, all of you could have been made the same. But you're not made the same. In order that each of you is tested to your own capacities of what you've been granted. So to them it made sense to celebrate. They're celebrating it out of love. And others, their understanding of Islam is that it's not. And that is something Islamically we used to have for 12 centuries. Or at least the first 10 centuries, we had a great breadth of understanding where we were able to not just tolerate, but to digest difference. We had this thing called adab al-ikhtilaf. I don't have to agree with you to have adab towards you. When we disagree on a thing, we disagree respectfully. So, and you know, the moment, wallahi, there is good. I believe from the depth of my heart, Allah has placed good in anyone that has been allowed to say La ilaha illallah. The Quran says, وَمَا كَانَ لِنَفْسٍ أَن تُؤْمِنْ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. It was not up to any soul to be able to become a believer, only by the leave of God, only by His permission. So all of these people are in front of me. Some of you may have like tattoos and earrings and crazy hairstyles and be into heavy punk rock or something, but you say La ilaha illallah. I have to love you like my brother or my sister. That's my religious duty to God before worrying about other things. And there are things we have to love our brother and sister and therefore want good for them. And so if I want good for you and I know that you're taking crack cocaine, you know, it's not to say, oh well, you know, I love you so it's good. No, my true love is that I say, brother, sister, this stuff is bad. But I decide, you know, there are in our own lives every day, you imagine you have a younger sister or a younger brother and they're up to something that's not good for them. See, now there's two things you can do. You can either become all like, I'm going to do amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar and say, yeah, this is haram and I'm going to slap you up if I ever see you doing this again. That's one thing you can do. You can go around and be the big brother or the big sister and go all militant on them. Right? And then so what's that going to achieve? They're never going to do that in front of you again. But do you think they're really going to say, that makes so much sense. That slap really helped me to see that this is bad for me and I'm... No. They're going to do it even more just out of sight. If you truly love your brother and sister and you hate the bad, then your engagement with them is not predicated by releasing your anger and frustration. Your engaging with them is for one purpose and one purpose only, to remove the one you love from the evil that you hate. That's the only thing you're concerned with. The bottom line, how do I get my brother to stop smoking weed? How do I get my sister to stop dressing in a way that is not good for her and gives off all the wrong signals? How do I get my younger brother or sister to stop missing prayers because the creator of the heavens and the earth, who gives us every breath that we take, is going to hold them to account for that one day, a terrible day that lasts for the length of 50,000 years. And on that day, this kid brother, this baby brother or baby sister of mine is going to be in trouble before God. That's what I care about. Not about me showing them how tough and angry and just frustrations, venting those. And if you care about that, then you do with your brother or sister what a mother does to a child. And a child needs to feed, but doesn't want to feed. And a mother doesn't just say, okay, you don't want to feed? Khalas, I'm going. The mother says, please, my sweetheart, my darling, I'll play helicopters with you. And does all of these crazy and creative things in order to get food in the belly of the child for its own sake. Mum's big and strong. The food the baby eats isn't benefiting mum in any way whatsoever. But she's anxious and she will do whatever to get this child to just love it. We have to see each other as brother and sister, and if we did, then we don't cut each other off. We plead and we have compassion and we engage like that. Sorry, I'm going off on rants. I think it's late in the day, and so I apologize for that. Do we have any other questions? Yes. Well, just before that, any of the sisters, because we've had two brothers. If a sister has a question, then I'll go to the sister. Otherwise, no. Okay. Yes, Akhi. Okay, so the first question was, what was the first question? Sorry, forgive me, I'm tired. How to be developed? You see, I've tried to, and that's such a very, very important question. And really, a large part of what I'm speaking about today is about that. I mentioned the ayah of the Quran, أَمْ لَمْ يَعْرِفُوا رَسُولَهُمْ فَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Is it because they didn't come to know their Prophet that they are then able to reject him? Knowing him is to love him. You can't know him and not fall in love with him. And there are people who tried, and in spite of their best efforts, I mentioned Hind, she said to him when she came and the conquest of Mecca took place, and she'd done all of these bad things, she says, by God, there was no group of people on the face of this earth that I hated more than I hated you and your followers. And now there is no group of people on the face of this earth that I love more than you and your followers. Is there space for me within it? And he told her, say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So there are people who, we have to develop love by coming to know him. And the other thing is, try to practice his sunnah. And what is the sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What is his sunnah? His sunnah is the way that he knew how to smile and that he was gentle. A Muslim you shouldn't be a Muslim who drops litter on the street. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِمَاتَةُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ صَدَقَةٌ. So it doesn't matter if you're wearing a thobe or Western clothing, or if you have a big beard or a small beard or a hijab, and if you are not practicing the example that he set for you to be a beautiful person. And that comes sort of towards your last question, which is, so therefore, study his life. You guys are going to watch the message, so that's alhamdulillah, it's a very, very, it's a good depiction of that history. But study his life. Take the time to read. Take the time to attend lectures and courses and things like that.
Can I just add something? Can you be a Muslim if you don't love him more than your life?
No. Very good question. And we know that the Prophet of Allah said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. You can't be a believer in truth until you've loved me, Muhammad more than your parent, your child, and all of humanity. Because your parents are the ones who brought you into this world. In the physical sense, the messenger is the one who delivers to you the message through which the life of this world and what is beyond it has meaning. And moving on to this the second point about the da'wah, you call somebody your best friend. Well, actually, the Prophet said also, he says you can't be a true believer until you love me more than you love all of creation. He also said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you is a believer until you've learned to love for your brother or sister what you love for yourself. And the scholars will agree that this isn't your brother in Islam. This is your brother in humanity. Your brother from Bani Adam. Allah says, وَإِلَىٰ عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا وَإِلَىٰ ثَمُودَ أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. To the disbelieving community of Ad, we sent their brother, the Prophet Hud. To the disbelievers of Thamud, we sent their brother, the Prophet Salih. So prophets are called brothers to kuffar. The Prophet said, none of you is a believer until you've loved for your brother what you've loved for yourself. Now, you're my brother or sister, and so is John Smith and Caroline, whoever, right? Every human being is a brother or a sister to me, and I have an obligation to love for them. The best of what I love for myself is to be entered into the mercy of God and to be saved from his punishment. فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. For he that is freed from the chastisement of the fire and entered into the expanses of the garden, he has made it. That is success. And I should want that success for every human being that I encounter. Now I have an obligation. See, that people, they say if you bleed, it doesn't break your wudu. Shall we not pray behind these people from now on to avoid it, just in case they've cut themselves and bled a little bit, or they picked their teeth and their gums bled, and they're still leading the salah without making fresh ablutions. Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, how could I not make salah behind the likes of Malik, Sa'id ibn Musayyab, Ash-Shafi'i? In other words, I disagree with them, and yet they are giants because they are people of ilm, people of scholarship, people whose hearts and minds are only geared to obeying God and His Messenger. In our conclusions, we may differ.